Now we're on to this week's modeling tip, which is using various cosmetic and pastel sponges to weather vehicles, rolling stock, and locomotives. Let me show you how it's done. Here I have some examples of some different cosmetic sponges. You can find these at any drugstore for just a few dollars a pack. These top two items here are sponges that are used by people that do artwork with pastels. You can find these at most well-stocked art supply stores. For today's project, I'm going to use cosmetic applicator sponges and this HO scale vehicle. I'm also going to use several shades of polyscale paints, so let's get started. I'm going to start by putting some rust paint on this applicator here. I'm going to blot off the excess. In a way, this is kind of like dry brushing. Then I'm going to start blotting on the rust. I'm just going to make a little wear spot on the roof here. As always, following prototype photos is a good idea. You can speed up the dry time if you're very careful with a heat gun or a hairdryer. Next, I'm going to switch gears and go to the roof brown. I'm going to work in the center here, and I'm just going to take it up, leaving a little bit of the rust underneath visible. I like using these sponges more than paint brushes because you don't get the heavy brush strokes, and also you can blot out a lot of the paint, and it dries nice and flat. Now we're going to switch gears and use tarnished black paint. Why that color, you might be wondering? Well, this car is black, but I want it to look worn, and obviously the rust is a big part of that, but I want the paint to look faded too, and the tarnished black will do that job for us. If you're using acrylic paints, you can throw the foam applicators in water and clean them out. And then we're going to finish it up with the railroad tie brown. Just going to blot some out in the gray first, look like some rust that's starting to form on the perimeter here. I'll put a little bit of this brown in the center and a little bit over the brighter rust as well. And another thing too is if you don't like your techniques, you can always go over it and start again. Here's another example of a bus that I finished using the same technique. You can see I've got some patches of the fresh rust and then some of the darker rust. And then you can go in and pick up some of the base color of the vehicle too to add that in so it looks like the rust is growing in a splotchy pattern. Now let's head down to the layout and take a look at a few other examples of models that I finished using this technique. The MP15 is one that I decorated for the MR&T, our club layout, and as you can see it looks really weather beaten and worn like many of the Milwaukee Road Bandit scheme locomotives do. On the hillside are two other cars that I finished using this technique, as well as the other half of the bus that we saw earlier. This is a really easy technique and one that I hope you'll give a try soon.